Hello everyone, this is a July 2019 Metalfoes Yang Zing deck profile for Yu-Gi-Oh! So this deck is cool because it's easy to learn. I mean, the interaction between Yang Zing and Metalfoes is actually pretty simple and pretty straightforward. And all of these Metalfoes monsters are normal monsters with the exact same pendulum effect among them. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple, self-explanatory. And Metalfoes is a lesser played pendulum archetype, so definitely adds to the unique factor and coolness. The deck doesn't do too much, to be honest. It's not that powerful, but it's definitely cool. So let's begin. So we have triple Metalfoes Silvered. So this is your level 3, your scale 1, decent beater too, which actually does matter because sometimes you don't have enough cards in your opening hand to make a pendulum summon the right scales. Sometimes you don't have a Yang Zing to pop with the Metalfoes monster, so sometimes your normal summon is going to be used on a Metalfoes Silvered, for example, which is just going to be used as a beater, and that's really the strategy you're going for if you don't have the right hand. But the primary focus of these cards here, the Metalfoes, is the pendulum effect. So once per turn, you can target one other face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, set one Metalfoes spell or trap directly from the deck. So there are 4 spells and traps that I run, and the goal is to get your Yang Zing on the field somehow, whether it's the normal summon or its own another Yang Zing's floater effect. So you scale the Metalfoes, you pop the Yang Zing with the Metalfoes you set from the deck, and then you will get in the next chain the floater effect of the Yang Zing. So that's the combination of these two archetypes. That's the interaction that you're going for, and that's pretty much it for the normal monsters. Not too much explanation needed for these normal monsters, but I do have triple Steel End too. So I mean, I just wanted the variety, the levels, the level 2, the scale 8, but they all have that same effect. So 2 gold drivers as well. This is your level 4, which actually is the highest beater of the Metalfoes. So again, that does come into play sometimes. And just another scale 1 here, and then your another scale 8 for your level 7. This card actually does have a little bit of conflict with the scale 7 Yang Zing monster because it is a level 7 this card, but not too big of a deal. So that's it for the Metalfoes monsters. So triple Chi Wen for our Yang Zings. This is the card you want to see in your graveyard. Hopefully you can pop this card with a Metalfoes scale so you can get it into the graveyard. So next time you pop a Yang Zing, you can special summon this card back from the graveyard. And you're level 1 tuner, so it helps you go into your synchros. This is a synchro heavy deck. So we have triple Jiaotu. This is your level 2 tuner. This card's effect is less able to be used consistently because in a deck that is not pure Yang Zing, the chances of you having or opening 2 other Yang Zings to discard for cost to special from the deck using this card is lower, but I do have it at 3 still because I needed that level 2 tuner. Again, synchro heavy deck. So double Bishi. Again, this is just for the variety of levels. I included 3 of these Beyonds here for the beefier levels, the higher levels, to help me go into my synchros a little bit easier, the higher level synchros. And I do have 2 Swannies as well. So all of these cards let you synchro summon during your opponent's turn, and they give a bonus to your synchro monsters too. But you know, usually you're just using these as synchro material and popping them with the Metalfoes. That's definitely the focus. That's the point to drive home right there, popping the Yang Zings with the Metalfoes. So for the pendulum Yang Zings, we have double Zafraniu and 1 Zafraxi. So this one, if it's pendulum summoned, or when it's pendulum summoned, or when it's destroyed by battle or card effect, so you can pendulum summon this card out too to get its effect. You search a Yang Zing spell or trap, so that's 1 of 3 paths that I run, or that 1 creation that I do run. And this card allows you to use your Yang Zing that's normally not a tuner as a tuner. So this card I do like to add to my extra deck with Electromite, so I can pendulum summon it out and then easily search that path. And having a level 4 Swanee as a tuner using this card is actually pretty useful too with some of those lower level Metalfoes to go into my synchros. So spells, triple path. This card, it's like Jiaozu. I mean, the consistency is not as high as a pure Yang Zing deck for this card to be good. I mean, you don't always have 3 Yang Zings in your graveyard. I just included it at 3 here anyway because the draw power is still so important. I didn't want to play Desires in this deck, and I just thought that the draw power was necessary for this card to still be at 3, just like I have 3 dark holes as well. This is for destroying the field, obviously, but also, you know, triggering those Yang Zing floating effects. So same as my pure Yang Zing build here in this regard. So double Metalfoes fusion. This card is pretty much polymerization, except with one really cool additional effect. So you're fusion summoning a Metalfoes monster, so Orichalc, but you can also shuffle this card from the grave into the deck to draw 1 card. So definitely a cool additional effect for draw power that this deck actually needs pretty badly. So 1 Twin Twisters. This is just for generic back row removal. This could be 1, 2, or 3. Just you can tweak that ratio if you want. So for traps, triple 9 pillars. This is, you are sometimes turboing out monsters. I mean, the deck, it doesn't consistently do that, but sometimes if you have maybe double Metalfoes in the scale zone and you can somehow get 2 Yang Zings on the field, you can get a bunch of floating effects, a bunch of destruction. But this card is for the control side of the deck, the more Yang Zing side. To negate spell trap or monster effect, and then just pop that Yang Zing 2 to get the destruction effect. So double Metalfoes combination. This card is just one of 2 cards that I can set off of the Metalfoes pendulum effects, but also it's good against fusion-based decks if your opponent is using a fusion-based deck, because it's once per turn. If a fusion monster is fusion summoned on either side of the field, you can special a Metalfoes in your grave with a level less than the fusion monster. So sometimes, you know, hopefully if you can pull it off, you have an Electromite in the extra zone, you can fusion summon the Orichalc with this card on the field, and then hopefully you can get that 1 more material using this card back from the graveyard to help you go into something like a Synchro under the other zone that is under Electromite. So that is just the ideal play right there if you can actually pull that off. And then finally we have a Yang Zing creation, which is only here at 1. I mean, it is helpful getting that additional destruction effect after your when your Yang Zings are destroyed. You get that additional spam from the deck, but it does lock you into Synchro specifically, so that is a risk. So in the pure Yang Zing build, this is a definite 3 of, I would say, but you do want to be going to that Electromite or just Decode Talker, I mean, at least. So you don't always want to have creation on the field. So I played it at 1. So for the extra deck, double Orichalc. So this is the Metalfoes boss monster. So it gives all your Metalfoes double piercing damage, I mean, which is good. I mean, it's a decent effect, kind of underwhelming to be honest, because I mean, I would say less than half the time your opponent's going to be putting monsters in defense mode, but it does have a good graveyard effect. You can pop a card on the field. So with Dark Hole, with the Metalfoes scales, you can pop this card. So a good alternate strategy if you're not necessarily going for the piercing damage, which doesn't always apply. So for the links, Electromite. So this deck is only comprised partially of Pendulum monsters, so you're not always going to this Electromite every game. But like I said, I do like to add that Zafrani to the extra deck to get that easy path. But like, yeah, you're not going to the Electromite every game. Usually I am going into actually this Decode Talker for my standard extending of the board plays. This card just gives you a negation. This could have been land too, but it is still a decent card. I mean, it still hasn't been power crept too heavily. And then the last link I run is a Zephyr Metaltron, which is not like the its use in the Pendulum Magician deck. I mean, in the Pendulum Magician deck, the combo is so standard, so rote to people who play that deck. You can go right into your Vortex Dragon using Absolute as material, and then summon the Zephyr Metaltron too, and all of that play. But in this deck, it's actually harder to go into this card here. But I still have it in here because the arrows are important, and you want to be extending the board, hopefully, so you can hopefully get multiple Synchros and an Orichalc on the field. That's really the goal for the extra deck. So for the Synchros, 1 Herald of the Arclight. This is your negation. It's got, unfortunately, a very weak attack, so if you're using it in the extra zone, sometimes your opponent can just normal summon a monster and beat right over it before you can even use its negation effect. But, you know, if it can come into play, this Omni Negate. So for some level 6 Synchros, we have a Metalfoes Horus as well as a Bryonac. This is just your standard bouncing to the hand. I mean, cards that your opponent controls. It also loads up your graveyard with those Yang Zings that you discard. You don't necessarily want to be discarding all the time. You don't want to be discarding Metalfoes, but Yang Zings, yes. Metalfoes Horus has a bunch of good effects. I would say the best one is that it's unaffected by other card effects. So if you use a normal monster as the non-tuner material, So sometimes you can just go in for easy damage because your opponent can't touch this card. But you can take control of one of your opponent's monsters if you use a pendulum as the non-tuner. So it can't attack, but you can use it as material, and then you can also negate the effects of a card that another face-up card on the field too, if you use an effect monster. So all three of those effects can apply in this deck. So we have a Yadza for our level 7 synchro, just a very generic level 7 synchro that does fit into the Yang Zing deck very nicely. It's got a destruction effect, can't be targeted. The floodgates aren't happening with this in this deck, and I'm not running any floodgates in this Metalfoes Yang Zing hybrid here, but this card actually wouldn't be affected by those floodgates because its effect is continuous. Something like Skill Drain I'm talking about if you saw my pure Yang Zing build. Anyway, Black Rose Dragon, this is just to pop the field and get those Yang Zing effects active, and then also get that Ori Calc maybe if you're popping your own or destroying the Ori Calc with the Black Rose. So double Basha. This card spins. It does also pop and revive, but I would say spinning is primarily what you're going for here. That is just a very overwhelmingly good effect too. And all of these Metalfoes hopefully can help you go into the Yang Zings. If you saw the pure Yang Zing build that I made recently, I am kind of comparing these two builds in my that I've made, and I would actually like to see the matchup between them. Honestly, I'm siding on the side of pure Yang Zings over this hybrid here. It feels like it's a little more consistent, and you can usually get more materials to make this Basha, for example, to spin more monsters or more cards into the deck. But it's definitely cool. Like I said at the beginning, it's unique. So we have a Ignister Prominence for our level 8 synchros here. This card works very well with the in the pendulum style decks. So you can shuffle into the deck. It's a non-targeting, non-destruction. We have a Void Ogre Dragon, which does require a Dark Tuner, but if you can make it with that Jiaotu, and you do have no cards in your hand, you can negate spells and traps. So it feels like it was a good card in the past. Now it's just a decent card, but still makes it into the deck, I would say. And then lastly, we have this Chao Feng, which you can use a Metalfoes to make this card. Just remember, you won't have that additional negating of effects that your opponent controls. Only one of those is going to be a tuner. The tuner is going to be the Yang Zing, so you're only going to have that attribute negated from this Chao Feng if you use the Metalfoes. So again, I would more often than not say that the pure Yang Zing is superior to the Metalfoes Yang Zing. But in conclusion, this deck is easy to learn because normal monsters just make the game a lot more simple. So thanks for watching this one, and have a good one.